Happy Friday, guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Dubs. I'm your host, Bill T. Well, buckle up, get ready, because we're going on a trip today. We're going on a round table, and we're going to get that kicked off in just a minute. But before I started the round table, what I want to do is remind you guys to go check out letstalkdubs.com if you want to register for our One Crazy Weekend event coming up October 6th and 7th. Make sure you go to letstalkdubs.com. Register there for the car show and the poker run. It's $30 for the car show, $50 for the poker run, $80 for both if you're not good at math. This is the best weekend that you're going to have with your clothes on in Las Vegas. So make sure you go check that out. It's our One Crazy Weekend where we've got a poker run, a car show, and a strip cruise. So it's going to be a great time. You guys will look forward to kicking it with that. And it's just the best time that we have in Vegas with a car show. Now, in addition to that, make sure you guys support our sponsors of our podcast, and that would be VW Trends Magazine, a magazine for the people, by the people. Check out Dan Ledbetter right now. You can follow him on Instagram or on Facebook. He's going to be showing up all across the country, different VW supply houses and parts places, and you get a chance to win a lifetime subscription to VW Trends. So make sure you guys check out VW Trends Magazine at vwtrendsmagazine.com. Subscribe today. They just had the latest issue come out. Some pretty rad rides in that issue, so make sure you guys peep that out and get subscribed today. Also, don't forget our sponsor, Ross Wolf. You got some funky looking deck lid hinges on your bus. Make sure you go to rosswolf.com and pick up some of their deck lid hinges. They've got some billet machined deck lid hinges, replacements for your raglio busted up deck lid hinges on your bus. And they're top quality stainless steel. They are made from billet and they are unbelievably durable. You can paint them, you can polish them, or you can leave them in the metal finish that's there right now. They'll outlast any set of hinges you are. They work as good as new, if not a little bit better. And for those of you guys up there in the Rust Belt, get yourself some Ross Wolf billet stainless steel VW bus deck lid hinges. They work from 1955 to 1976. They're $80 for a set. So get your hinge right and go see Ross Wolf at rosswolf.com. That's ROSSWULF.com, rosswolf.com. So without any further ado, guys, we're going to get into it today on the podcast with the round table.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen. It's got everything that people who like the bug like.
George T.
Bill T.
Welcome to the round table.
Oh, snap. Going for round two on that.
Don't worry, bro. Welcome to the round table. We're doing this all remote, Bluetooth, all kinds of action over here on the podcast.
Super high tech.
And, we've outlasted another one, bro. There's been a couple podcasts that came and gone since kicked off Let's Talk Dubs. And I was out just perusing the competition, if you can call them that. And the one that was out not too far long ago was disappeared, bro. They haven't put out an episode in like a year. But hey, what are you gonna do, man? I make it look easy, baby.
Well, and honestly, there is a little bit to be said for that. It looks easy when you're on the other side listening, and it's a lot different to do. A lot of people can observe and say, "Oh, I would like to try that," and then you have to physically put the time and effort and work into it.
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, when I started the podcast, I started it because I thought, I can record something, and we call that watch there, bro. And I said, I like to start a podcast because I wanted to originally do some VW talk. And obviously all of our listeners have known that, it's evolved into quite a bit more than.
It's more of a VW history recording almost.
I mean, I've just been chasing down history and I've got more stuff coming up. I've got Greg Aronson slated to come on. So we've had a really great conversation recently. Let me see who I've got coming on. I've got Greg Aronson. I've got George Otto. I still have to finish the ones that I did in England. Richie King, Dave Andrews. I mean, there's still plenty to come on board, but a lot of people have been clamoring for the roundtable because people really like the roundtables because they like a little bit of back and forth, some of the discussion.
They like the brotherly banter. Is
They
what they
do,
like.
bro.
The brotherly banter.
They do. So, a couple topics. Well, first, I wanted to give, just some recognize Hot Dog Fred passed away, and so
R.I.P. Man.
yeah, condolences.
Made a
man.
good hot dog. I didn't know the gentleman personally, but he made a good hot dog.
Yeah, and he was the guy that had the bus that was built that they did the overhauling for.
Yeah.
And
the controversial Chip Foose bus. I'm going to call that because it was a love or hate thing for sure.
And I'll tell you why I loved it, because it was a Chip Foose original, and Chip Foose has his own style.
But definitely.
And for that being, if you can appreciate Chip Foose's style, it's like, when they take an artist rendition and they'll give, sometimes I've gone out to some of these malls or city functions where they have like, I can't remember where I was, but they did like a bull, and the bull that they did, it was like a plaster cast bull, right? Like a raging bull. And they gave it like 20 different artists, and every artist did their own rendition of the same platform. Mm-hmm. And I think that would be so cool to do if I were to do that with, let's say, a Bug Buster Gia. Just pick one platform, and give it to 5 builders. I think that would be the coolest thing to do. Like and especially, let's say, some of the guys that aren't traditional, like I wouldn't do like Buddy Hale, Bob Cook, and the guys that build VWs all the time. I would give them to, like, let's say this is a great topic that I just randomly came up with on top of my head.
Let's go back real quick and just RIP to.
Rest in peace, Hot Dog Fred. No, for sure, man.
Now we switch over to Foose and
condolences to his family, but when we talk about Hot Dog Fred, you can't talk about Hot Dog Fred without his national public exposure.
Did you ever know how he felt about it? Did he like it?
I don't think
being so controversial.
He got rid of it. He wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm on the Hot Dog Fred side of that, because
I got you.
The iconic change of the front is what got me. To get rid of the VW symbol and put the Volkswagen script, I didn't dig it. I didn't like the lowering of the belt line in the back, making it level with the taillights the way he did that. There were certain things that was done to Hot Dog Fred's bus that I did not appreciate.
Well, and so...
But it's nice.
But that's beautiful. The difference between you and me. Like, you're looking at it from a VW purist standpoint. I'm looking at it from I look at it as truly the blank slate that they can be. Mm-hmm. And I think if I were to pick, I'm going to see how many I can list in a row. If I were to take a bus, a Bug, a Gia, or any of that stuff, and take one, I think it would be super cool to do to take just a stock Bug, bus, Beetle, or whatever, take it to these guys, and just to maximize their potential, I would take a Beetle, right? A Beetle, and I would drop off one to Chip Foose, right? I would drop off another one to Steve Strope. I would drop off one to Ring Brothers. I would drop off one to all the guys. There's a Goobsley's Custom that does a bunch of cars that are out of, like, I think Alabama or somewhere. Mm-hmm. I would take one to, I'm just trying to think of other people that would do. I mean, I think part of me would say I'd want to give one to Jesse James, but we've already kind of seen, I don't want to say we've seen what he's done, because he built one.
He did one on Monster Garage. He's done his own cars. I mean, and I don't know.
Yeah, Jesse's.
I don't know how different he would get from anything else. Whereas opposed to those other guys you're naming right there,
well,
they kind of have their own style of build.
Correct,
and they would put their signature
and
to
that's
it.
Kind of
not to say that Jesse James doesn't have his own style. He totally has his own style on it, on his bikes and his firearms and.
But I think if you gave it to him with, like, you need to build this to say Jesse James on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, brand it with your look, right? Yeah. And Jesse, this is, a lot of people don't know this. Jesse, I've been in contact with a couple times on Instagram. 2 times he's agreed to do the podcast. And every time I try to hammer him down, like, Jesse, let's get you on the podcast, he just goes ghost on me. So any guys out there know Jesse, drop my DM, be like, yo, bro, why aren't you coming on Let's Talk Dust podcast? Because I know he would do it. It's just probably a schedule thing. And you know what? I'm making a commitment right now. I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow. I'm going to send him another text message, be like, Jesse, this is Bill. Let's talk dubs. Let's sit down and hammer on a podcast. But right now, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 guys. Who else has their own style of Volkswagen? Because you have Dwayne, who's up there in used to work for American Hot Rods. He's been on the podcast, and he built one, and his was kind of his surf style.
Well, you already got your fifth there. If you think about like Foothill Fabs, like they're not. I mean, they're VW guys, yes, but they're doing almost a more hot roddy build to that bug that they're doing.
Correct. Yeah. So Foothill, Foothill Fab.
Because they're not following the norm. They're not like, oh, we got to make it into this Formula Fuchs, dump it, all the chrome accessories on it, you know.
And I'm just trying to think of any other shop.
They might be on Fuchs.
Any other shop, any other hot rod shop that would be anywhere in the nation that's just known for.
Throw Kenny Fitzer in the mix, dude.
No, there's no question, dude. KPD Designs, Kenny Fitzer, for sure, he's in the mix, and then Troy Rad Rides by Troy.
Troy Trapanier.
Troy Trepanier. Yeah, bro, that guy built some ridiculous.
Is that really
stuff.
how you say his name, Trepanier?
Yeah. Bro, we're like brother. No, I never met the guy, but that's how. Like he built a Buick. I own a Buick. So
you guys are almost related.
It's Trepanier. That's how I'm saying it, bro. I've always heard Trepanier. If he has beef with that, have him come on the podcast. Matter of fact, one of his guys or a couple of his guys that work for him are VW guys. One of them is in the VW some way somehow because someone reached out to me.
It's not far-fetched.
And I get peppered all the time.
We're like an infection.
I get peppered all the time with people that like, oh, you should have so-and-so on the podcast. And man, this freaking job is getting in my way, bro. Like my day job. And I got
trying to get rid of it, guys. He's trying, man.
I got to quit this day job so I could do that. But
going back to what you said about the podcast thing.
Well, pause for 2 seconds. Let me wrap this up right here. Let me put a bow in this.
Put a bow in it.
So I want you guys to give me your feedback on Facebook. And I'm going to put a post up on the Facebook page of Facebook and Instagram. If I were to take let's do this parameters. Hold on.
65 Beetle, identical.
They all get the shell. They get the shell.
5 shops.
And they can do
shops are they going to?
Whatever they want. I'm more than 5 shops.
Don't call out VW shops because they're just
going to do it. We're not doing VW
let's
shops.
break the mold.
Hold on. And the next one has got to be Kid Dean. Kid Dean down there in San Bernardino. He did the chopped square back in the day, but he's Dick Dean's son, and he's got a real hot rod style.
Mm-hmm.
So I would also do Kid Dean.
We're like 9 now.
So I've got 1, 2. So this is my list of people that would get a car. It would be Chip Foose. It would be Steve Strope. It would be Ring Brothers. It would be Goobsley's. It would be Foothill Fabs. It would be KPD Design. It would be Rad Rides by Troy, and that would be I can't read my own writing. That was the last one I said. I wish my glasses at, bro. Where's my glasses? But it would be the last one that I said was you want glasses? You want glasses? I can't read. Hot garbage. Hold on, bro. I just struck go. Oh, Kid Dean. Kid Dean, man. Because I know he built a sick hot rod style, Beetle. So I think it would be rad to do that. But go ahead. You were talking about the podcast.
So when you're talking about the fact that podcasts have come and gone and whatnot, and it's effort, and if there's no reward, going back to you on this one, there's no reward from this podcast. Besides, obviously you get the reward of like when people send you emails and like, dude, I love the podcast, stuff like that. But there's no financial reward for this. If anything, it costs you money to do. You have to want to do something like this as a passion project. This can't be something like, I'm going to be whimsical and do a podcast this week and not do it next week, because the other thing that's super important is consistency. It's got to come out every week, and it's got to be there for your listeners. And I know you've flubbed it up a couple times with not releasing them on time or whatever like that, but they've been very few and far between, and that's very difficult to do, especially since obviously I just started my YouTube channel a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago, and it's hard to create content and put it out as a scheduled thing when you're still doing everything else in life. I still have to get jobs done. I still have to do stuff at home. I still have to do all this stuff, and you have to balance that into life and still put out something. So I think that's why people will try it, because it does sound easy. It does seem easy. Oh, they're just talking about Volkswagens. You got to do it.
These guys thought it was so easy. They put like one microphone in a room, and I think they recorded in a bathroom because it was like there's echoes all over the place. It was.
He forced me to listen to this garbage as we're coming back from Sacramento. Look, listen to this. I don't want to hear this. It's horrible, dude.
Yeah, but part of me is like, I like to hear it just to see like what else is out there, and to see like, And I ask myself, like, is my podcast like that? Like, do people want
Rule
to turn
number
it
one,
off after 5 minutes?
Comparison is the thief of joy. So never compare yourself to anything else. You do an awesome job on this, and it's all self-motivated and it's all self-done. And I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm like telling you as a fan of the show, not just your brother, this is an entertaining endeavor that you've started.
But I think also it's more, it's less about comparing, but it's like, I want to see, because I I listen to other podcasts all the time because I get hypercritical over things that I say and mannerisms in my voice and things like that. And like, I'll listen to Adam Carolla, right? I'm a big fan of Adam Carolla.
Totally. One of the original Podfathers. He's like, he left radio and did a podcast, which he was on terrestrial radio, like a successful radio show.
And, he has a VW story. Hot VWs did a little blurb with him about his mom's squareback that they drove
great get.
across from. But he'd be cool to have on because he's a car guy.
A real car guy.
You know what I mean?
He's not a bullshitter. He's a car guy.
We could talk.
Pardon my French.
We could talk a little bit. We could talk some Volkswagen stuff and some car stuff. But it would be, I think it'd be a blast to have him on there. Yeah. Other people that people have suggested I get on there, like, some people reached out and said, oh, you should have Fluffy on there. And I said, yeah, I reached out to a friend of mine who does his cars for him. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I'd love to get Fluffy on the podcast. Now, I'm not going to hound anybody, chase somebody. Same with Jesse James. I sent him 2 text messages. I'd like to have him on but I want
But some effort does need to be put into when you're dealing with someone of the stature of Fluffy or Jesse James, because they're going to be a little more difficult of a get because probably the window of opportunity might be getting a little smaller on that. So maybe you might have to put a little more effort in them, something that big, as opposed to like a regular guest. You call me up and say, hey, you want to do a round table? I'm like, okay, I can do a round table. It's pretty simple and easy, but I'm not Jesse James. I don't have I don't know what the heck he does, but I don't have that kind of weight on my shoulder.
Right. But what I'm saying is, we're the plan is to get him to help out here
for sure.
So, but as we're talking about that, there was a good thing that we had here. That was my podcast rankings that I received. So I didn't know if
is that the fresh
it was
messenger just showed up?
fresh off of the press.
My nephew just walked in. Bill's son walked in with some paperwork. I don't even know what it is, dude. This was all happening in the background.
Well, this is clearly, it's legit because it's from a guy named Carlos.
Oh.
Signed it, Happy Podcasting. And he said, Let's Talk Dubs is ranking very well in the United Kingdom. Hello, how's it going? Hope all is well. I have some cool information that might interest you. Your podcast, Let's Talk Dubs, has good performance in Apple Podcast rankings in the last 30 days. So my highest ranking position is number 15 in the category of automotive in the United Kingdom.
Awesome.
So all my homies over there in the UK, keep it up, keep downloading, share the podcast.
We've obviously just had the 2 that came out recently with UK
the
gentlemen
British
on
Invasion,
them.
yeah.
And I'm assuming, if I know you are out pumping yours and talking to people and giving out stickers and hopefully doing stuff like that. So, and may have actually, people don't know about this stuff unless someone shows it to them.
Correct, which is why it's important that the fans share the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The listeners share the podcast. I hate calling them fans.
If you want to help out anybody doing anything, then share it with your friends. That's how today's society works. If your friend he has a business and he's trying to get business drummed up, share it on your Instagram or on your Facebook or whatever.
So let me go through the rest of this list.
Out.
So next ranking is 19, and I'm in 19 in automotive. These are all under automotive category. So Belgium, I rank 19th. Norway, 19th. Australia, 24. Ireland, 26. New Zealand, 29. United States. Where do you think? There's a lot of...
I'm going to say...
There's a lot of podcasts. 30.
Oh, good. That's good.
Woot, woot.
Yeah.
30.
Because I know there are a lot more podcasts here.
There's a ton of podcasts.
Automotive?
When you search automotive podcasts, there's a ton.
That's good, Bill.
And then in Sweden, 41, Germany, 83, and Canada, 96. But Canada, they're all drunk on maple syrup, bro. So you can't really... I mean, what are you going to do, right? So I think it's rad that the podcast is growing. I haven't put money into it. Part of me is like, I should just dump $1,000 just marketing the podcast.
Why?
But
I love the organic nature of it. I honestly do. I like that. Like when you were telling me how to pump my YouTube channel, I'd rather it just grow on its own and organically than me like, hey guys, please like this, please do this. I'll put it on my own social media. But I don't want to flood all them pages like Ruined and all them other VW pages and just post my stuff up on them. I don't know.
Yeah, but
that'll also be my downfall. Why I don't have 10,000 followers.
But
and all that
in the same
all
respect, there's a method means to get it out there in front of people, because there are people that would look for this. Like just recently, if you guys have started noticing, I've made an adjustment on my platform that I launch my podcasts on, and it automatically produces a static image picture on the on my on a YouTube page, and it puts the audio of the podcast, which I didn't know how I felt about that, because I really wanted to do video podcasts on there, but
video should be of good quality. It shouldn't be like a grainy garbage one angle. Yeah.
Well, what I want to do. So what's better? Just a static image with the audio text behind it, because there's a lot of people
if people listen to it that way, for sure.
There are a lot of people that don't even do they think a podcast. People go, "I'm going to watch your podcast." I'm like, "You don't watch a podcast. You listen to a podcast." But
I actually had a customer say, "Oh, dude, I've been watching your podcast. Like, have you been watching my videos?" Because it was meaning my videos.
Mm-hmm.
I said, because I have a YouTube channel. I don't have a podcast. I said, I'm on my brother's podcast sometimes, but I don't have a podcast.
Yeah, and so a lot of people have that misconception that a video podcast is a podcast. A podcast is primarily a radio show, an on-demand radio show is the best way I describe it to people. And what I love about this one is the history that I find out that I get to share with the listeners, because it's amazing to me. So many stories, like even just talking to people on the phone. I've got John Lazenby coming on soon. John Lazenby.
I don't know. That just helped.
Right. What I'm saying, but like John Lazenby, like who's John? Well, John Lazenby was DKP1.
Mm-hmm.
He was the general manager for Auto House. So I have the general manager for Auto House. I have the owner for Auto House. I'm starting to build like an Auto House thing that I'm going to be putting out a series.
You could have an Auto House playlist.
Well, but what I'm saying is, like, I've got the owner, I've got the general manager, and then I want to track down a couple of the franchise guys that were running some of those franchises, because I'm trying to think, there was another guy that someone
Didn't you have one? The guy from New York, wasn't he one of them?
No, he was Impy of New York.
Okay,
he was the Impy distributor on the East Coast, and unfortunately, that one was. He's an older gentleman. It was a little bit tough because he's a bit older. But you're part of me, because
I'm glad you got it,
because I'm
carry documented.
That's the problem, because now I carry this flag of like the documenter of history, and I'm not biased by like this is good, that's bad. It's like if it was
this guy isn't current right now.
If it was part of the history, I wanted to get it, especially if those guys are still around, because I want to hear part of what they have to say. Like, when I was talking to Greg Aronson, which I'm super excited about him coming on, I'm like, look, everybody knows Ron Fleming from Fat Performance.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of back in the shadows. And he's a different guy, right? He's always kind of back in the shadows, but he's done a ton of stuff. He's the other part of Fat Performance. He's been there forever. He built Tar Babe. He built the Aronson Holmes car. He built a lot of stuff. But for him, the automotive hobby is different. For him, it's a hobby. It's something that is not his life, and he's separated. At least this is my impression. We'll get more in-depth understanding once we get into the podcast. But he's had his automotive stuff that he did, and then he had the rest of his life. But he's had an automotive hobby, although it changed and skipped around a little bit. But it's going to be interesting, because that one will also help me a little bit with my starting to transition into a little bit of that VW history that starts to bleed into the off-road side, because there's a bunch of history on that's relevant and can kind of tie together, which brings me to
Bob McCracken, R.I.P. brother.
Yeah, Bob McCracken passed away recently, and I've been chasing Bob.
Yeah, he's been trying to get him on the podcast for a while. It's unfortunate it didn't happen.
It's been really a while, and my condolences go to the family. He was Bob. Good dude, Henri Cuss. I mean, and that was the part that you liked about him, right?
Yeah.
You get to a point in your life where you're done taking crap from anybody.
Yeah. He was there years ago.
I always tell this story. I was there recently, just stopped by to see Marie, his daughter, and his son the name McCacker might be familiar, because his son Rob is one of the most winning off-road racers that's out, right? He's driven everything. And then he's gone back to class 1600s, and
currently he's still in a trophy though.
He's ran just about every class, and he's won. He's still on every podium, right?
Yeah.
And was one of the youngest drivers racing for Ford. But there would be no Rob without Bob. And I really wanted to kick off the Vegas off-roading history, or the Vegas Volkswagen hobby history that got some sort of somewhere, starting with Bob, because Bob owned the store. Now, when I would go to the store in the 80s, it was Pat Dean was working there. You had
Dave.
Pat, you had Dave, and you had Marie in the back. Marie was doing the stickers.
Yeah, she used to do vinyl cutout stickers.
She was doing some of that stuff in the back, and I'd go in there. I remember I'd go in there. So I had to be 17 at the time. So I'm working at the Olive Garden, and I would go in there. My check would be about $260. So I'd walk on in there, and I would endorse my check on the back. I would walk through the store. I'm going to need these chrome pulleys. I'm going to need this hubcap puller, all this unnecessary stuff that I needed. I would walk up to the counter. They'd tally it up. Oh, it's $86. And then they would just give me the change back. So I wouldn't even have to cash my check. I would just get my check. I would go straight there. And it was just such a cool thing, because I was thinking, like, man, I was so into this hobby, and it was my car. I get to build it. I get to do these things. You remember, you were there as a scrub helping me, dude, like buying a 1600 dress-up kit for my 1200, finding out nothing fits.
Nothing.
I think that
bending headers.
Yeah, like, and then we had headers, and we're like ratcheting. This is before you knew anything about a torch or a welder and that kind of stuff. We're like, we're gonna make this header fit, like buying a 1600 header for a 1200 motor. But just all these things, so many good memories of like how we started this hobby, how we were just scrubs back in the day. And, you know, and how even today when people get in the hobby, they start the same, right? They'll buy the wrong part. They'll do this, but they're so excited that they've got something that they can go home and bolt this onto that car, and they've customized it.
That's the importance of shops like Nevada Off-Road Buggy here locally in town, is the ability to touch a part and walk home with it and put it in your car for that instant gratification.
Yeah.
And especially in today's day and age with the internet. I mean, you can order some parts from some shops and get them here the next day. To me, I shop at Off-Road Buggy still. I always have.
Yeah.
Always will. Even as someone who can get deals in better places, because I try to support places like that to make sure that they're open for everybody.
And what's completely insane is that they're like the only shop left here in town. The only shop you can walk into and buy VW stuff. The only
brick and mortar shop for VW parts in our town.
The only one.
Because Myers is gone. Mm-hmm. He no longer has his parts department there. Butch's Speed Shop is strictly side-by-side stuff now. They do have a VW aisle or several of them, but that's not their focus.
But it's universal VW Sanrail stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, Beetle Barn no longer does parts. Like, he used to have a little parts room that he would sell out of. He doesn't do that anymore. We have Dan Volks, who's new to the game, but he's going to be mostly mail order. But he does actually keep, like, I just got a set of compound built Fuchs from him today because he had them in stock.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like
the compound built Fuchs, like the cut face ones.
Yeah, so they do a 5-inch and a 7-inch. You buy it as a kit.
Oh,
like, you have to get them together.
Face?
No. They're just narrowed. Like, you know how they were actually narrowing them?
Yeah.
They're casting them that way, so you don't have to get them all welded and cut. Pip was involved in the production of those, the part number has a CB in it because it's compound built from what they were going to do with. I don't even know if they kept doing that with Pip or not, but the part number has a CB in it, like their hardware that.
What are you putting those on?
They're for James Pulley's Yellow Gia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's changing from 15s to 17s?
Going to 15s.
Are those reps that are on his car?
Yeah.
This is the fifth sin?
Whatever it is. It's one of them sins.
That's a joke of the personalized plate that's on the car. But
I tell you, I was happy. I was in Off-Road Buggy the Friday before Bob passed.
Yeah.
And we were just shooting the breeze back and forth. Like, I would never just walk in there and get a part. I always would talk to him for 10 to 15 minutes usually. And he was like, Marie wants me to stay at home. He's like, but I really like coming here. He's like, I get to socialize with people. He's like, you know, because Mercedes, his wife, had passed a year or so ago. And he's like, I just really like coming here. He's like, there's nothing for me at my house.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to come here. I want to see people, and I don't mind it so much. So I know that Bob was doing what he wanted to do till the very end of it. And he was doing it Bob's way.
Yeah.
So RIP to Bob. Great dude.
And so here's what's cool, right? So I'm there hanging out, and I was talking to Marie, and I was talking to her husband. You know, her husband's had some health issues, some random health issues lately. And so I'm chatting with them, and then a guy, Bill Holbrook, comes in. He's the guy that I was talking to. I don't know, when you're waiting for me to help pack up some stuff, I was talking to those guys over by the trailer. Well, that was Bill Holbrook, who he worked at Nevada Off-Road Buggy, which is our still and only VW shop that's here in town today, when it was Off-Road Buggy Supply back in the in the early 80s, when the guy from Arizona walked out of the building. He told me the whole story about the whole thing. So I'm going to grab him to get the story of that, because that's a wild story, right? How a guy just walks away from this buggy supply shop.
I don't know the story.
Yeah, so you'll hear all this story. It's cool. So,
will we?
So Bill Holbrook, and then after he's got some really, really cool stories. Cool stories. He gets that job. He's working there, and then he ends up going over to Abaco, which was like this wrecking yard that was right off the I-15 in Lake Mead. The dude's name was Old Blue Eyes. They called him the old man that worked there. And they had a big part section, and Victor Torres built the engines over there. And so Victor Torres has built tons and tons of engines, and he was selling parts out there. And it's so funny because this guy's a staple in the VW scene, goes out to this big car show. No one knows who he is because he's just kind of doing his thing and just kind of retired and just back there hanging out. So I'm going to get both those guys in the podcast and start building my Vegas Volkswagen history, because I think it's so cool to build that history of the local VW scene.
I know Jose Myers personally, and probably get him to do it as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
He's got a very strong Argentinian accent.
I love it.
But he's a super cool guy.
But I want to get his story. I want to get all these guys' stories.
He was a porter because I asked him. He was a porter at Sunland. So he was a porter at Sunland. Warren Stevens was a mechanic at the time. And Warren obviously left in 59 to start Beetle Barn. And then Jose was a tech for a while, and then obviously opened up his own place. He said that what would happen, and I heard similar things from Warren, is customers would start, I want him to work on my car only. Like he would, I want Warren only on my car. So when it got to that point, then people would start contacting Warren direct, and that's how he opened up Beetle Barn. And the same thing was with Jose.
Yeah.
You know, like people, I want Jose only on my car. I want Jose only on my car.
Yeah,
super nice guy. I'm stoked because he calls me for advice sometimes, and I'm floored by that, because I'm like, you know, hey, I'm working on this and I'm running this problem, and I'm thinking like, how do you not know? But he's dealing with newer stuff, like people bringing lowered cars and stuff. So
does he still have his shop down in Boulder?
He does. He sold the building. So here's how bureaucracy ruins businesses. This gentleman owned this building, just recently sold it, but he owned the building that sold the parts and was the shop and the yard, everything. He owned the whole property. So he sold the business, Myers Auto Parts, to Napa, locally in town. So Napa started selling out of his location with the name changed to Napa. So when their lease was up, Jose gave him the boot. He went to refire his parts place back up, and they wouldn't pass his building for inspection. He's like, what, you know, but they wouldn't grandfather it back in.
He's like, I've had my parts business here for 50 years. The same
parts business for 50 years. And they wouldn't let the gentleman open his parts business back up, because he was going to fire up Myers Auto Parts again, because his right to compete clause was over and everything. He told me the story. I was floored. I was like, that's insanity.
Yeah.
Absolute insanity.
I think those stories, you know, I don't know if any other hobby is so self-made like the Volkswagen hobby.
Yeah. I don't have any formal training.
But what I mean is, like, when you're talking,
I don't think Russell ever went to school for VWs.
Yeah, when you look at every one of these shops, I mean, you're talking from Rick Sadler's story, who was just one of the VPs at MP. All these guys, you know, he worked for Mr. Bug forever. You look at all these guys in the industry. There's really no formal training. One guy that I know of had formal training. A couple guys.
I bet a few of them did. I'm sure Jose and Warren did, because they were techs.
Can you remember one of the guys that did the podcast that had formal training?
I don't.
Formerly trained by Volkswagen, Fred Simpson.
Oh, there you go.
That's one of the ways that he didn't get drafted, is that they were looking to hire people that were, it was automotive mechanics and accountants or something like that. And I thought that was really interesting how they, I got to turn the fan down over here. It's kind of loud. I thought it was interesting how that unfolded, that's how he got into doing Volkswagens. Like, he got pulled into being a Volkswagen tech so that he wouldn't have to get drafted. So I mean, I just think it's pretty cool, because they needed mechanics, and I wonder when the government will ever do that again, right? Like, when we need people, you know, like now when we need people. I was just talking to Scott Gildner. I called Scott Gildner the other day. He's working on the deck lid for my split window. He's making a custom 7-inch louver mold to punch louvers in my deck lid for my split window. And
is that why 7-inch? What's the?
Because I just want a 7-inch like a 7-inch
Just
wide.
one row of them.
3 down one side of each. If you guys still, I will stab you, bro. I will find you, and I'll be like, who did it? But 3 big louvers down each side of the W deck lid, because I don't care. And
Okay, so you're talking to Scott Gildner.
I'm talking to Scott Gildner, and we're talking, and he's like, you see on the news all these open borders. He says, I don't see anybody coming to work. He says, I had it. And usually the body shop business, like Hispanic guys or he said, a guy comes in with a translator, doesn't speak any English, and says, this guy will come work for you. He wants $1,200 a week. And he's like, let me see him work for 2 days and see what he can do. And he's like, well, he just needs money now. So if you pay him, and the funny part is, like, the guy that's translating for him is probably
taking 600
taking a cut or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I was talking to Scott because he's building a fastback Mustang right now. He's building all kinds of stuff, and he's like, I just can't find any help. He's like, there's just nobody looking to do any work, and it's just the worst thing. And so you're looking at a hobby that's going to get really expensive because there's fewer people doing it. I mean, even right now, we have in Vegas, we have all the tranny builders that are in Vegas. All the tranny builders at this point are all working out of their houses.
Yeah.
Because you've got Steve, who we just connected with Steve. We've got Artigas, and you've got Bitcon. And Bitcon does them.
Is Lloyd actually doing them?
Yeah,
still?
Lloyd does them on the site. He's the guy that he advertises.
I know he does
on
automatics.
OfferUp.
I just didn't know if he was like.
It's just crazy. I mean, you look at this stuff and you think, we're.
I think this goes back though also to
it's a generational
the bureaucracy thing too. Like it's difficult to start a business in certain automotive trades because the permits, the this, the that,
Well, especially when you look at how much rent is right now. Like, rent is out of control. I mean, I was talking to the spot that they have over there, that the spot that they're doing the parts out of right now. I think it's like $3,000 a month.
Oh yeah. Oh, Marie. Yeah.
But you're talking
off-road buggy.
It's what 800 square feet. It's an 800 square foot.
It's very small, and they should be cutting those people a deal.
Well, and here's the problem. There's
spa.
no cutting someone a deal. There's the market rate for retail space right now. And do they need to be where they're at? They don't. No. They're there out of convenience, and that's the place. Because I was talking to them, I was like, "Why'd you guys end up here?" It was the fastest they could find a place that was
Bob
the closest to
the
being
owner and
ready.
Could get him in right away.
Yeah. It's just crazy right now. So,
and there's so much empty commercial property everywhere.
There's a lot.
I don't get this supply and demand. Supply and demand's malarkey.
But yeah, it's just crazy. And the VW hobby, as much as it's changing, there's still new stuff coming out all the time, But, one of the things we wanted to talk about on the podcast was my trip to Volksworld.
Yeah.
So
we're going to segue a little better than that, but hey, Bill, why don't you tell me about your trip to Volksworld?
Well, my trip to Volksworld was unbelievable. It was nonstop the whole time. I'd anticipated to be able to go to the show quite a bit more, but what I ended up doing is we flew in. The show is Saturday, Sunday. I had been speaking with Paul Knight, so shout out to Paul Knight for the editor of Volksworld, for really laying out the red carpet for us. Me and my family, were able to get in there, and he gave me one of the suites.
He gave you early access to the
gave
venue.
Me early access. Gave me one of the suites upstairs where I could record everything in kind of a quiet space, which was really cool because it kind of overlooked the part of the racetrack and stuff. And
well, this is what you do to yourself when you go to shows.
It was just and
this is what you do to yourself. Like, you could have had a great time at a show. Instead, you're like, "Hey, we should do a podcast." When 15 minutes good for you? Yeah, and you like take somebody upstairs and you spend 2 to 3 hours talking to somebody upstairs. And then,
my attitude is like, I got to seize the moment.
I get it.
I'm there.
I get it. You could also.
I could have stayed. I could have stayed there for a week, and I still got.
Well, you're going back.
I still got to get Java Johnny.
So when you go back, you should be calling and organizing these things and go back a couple of days early and try to knock out 3 or 4 podcasts.
Yeah, we've got a bunch that I'm going to be doing over the phone that I want to get here soon, like Java Johnny. George Otto's coming on soon. George Otto's
why is that name familiar?
He's a publisher. He's got a pretty long history. His cars have been featured in the VW magazines. He's got a Type 34. He's hardcore VW guy, and he's a publisher for one of the VW magazines. He's got a long storied history. I'll go over his whole resume when he comes out, but So he's on the phone. Lyndon Creamer, he's coming on. So he built the
really?
Foo Bar. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've already been chatting with him. He's a good cat. I was supposed
Dude,
to
you see the new one he's doing?
I was supposed to get him at
Swear to
Volksworld.
God, dude. He's like, oh, I'm just going to straighten up a couple things and then we're done with it. He's basically redone the entire car.
Yeah,
It's insane.
He's a maniac, man.
But the problem is when you're a perfectionist, it's tough to cut corners.
Yeah.
Super hard.
And, that dude is just...
It almost takes more effort to cut a corner than it does just do it the right way.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty insane. He's got a really, really sick attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting
That's
him
what
on.
makes his freaking build so cool, though, is his attention to detail.
Yeah, I'm looking...
Even his little 36 motor that he just did, like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. He does some nice work.
It's a shame it was pissing oil when he first did it, but it's still like...
Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
Volkswagen. Bro.
Exactly. It's a Volkswagen.
It's a Volkswagen.
I have a saying, if it ain't done twice, it ain't done right.
That's right. So what we're talking about was, as I was there at the show, the experience of the Volksworld show, if you haven't been, this year it was a little bit soft because it was on Mother's Day weekend. The weather wasn't really cooperating great. But the whole experience of Volksworld is like, there's usually thousands of people there. And every night after the show, there's a bar kind of across the street called The Bear. It's a hotel right across the street. And the rooms sell out super quick, but there's a big bar downstairs, and there's just where everybody congregates at night. And there's so many people doing such cool things over there. H&R, AutoWorks, those guys are coming on. That's Jake and Will are the guys that are coming on. They do that. I mean, and they do like the patina rides that are all freaking gangster low. I mean, there's so many cool different flavors there. There's the Back to the 80s guys or Back to 89 dude. There's the Flat 4 Outlaw guys. There's so many different niches, just like there is here over there. So I'm really looking forward to go next year. And if you guys, as soon as they get the dates for next year, man, you guys ought to book your trip. Because listen, man, I don't care if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably in your 40s or 50s, and we ain't getting no younger. So you better travel while you're young. It's $1,000 to fly out there, if that, and book your trip in advance. But it's totally worth the trip. And the way that I did most of my everything over there was all Uber, dude. I did not rent a car. I rented a car to drive to Bath and Stonehenge, and rented a car the day I drove out to Andy's place. Other than that, man, I wake up, I buzz an Uber, bang, 16 pounds. I'm at the store, or I'm at the show, and super convenient, super easy. I never used Uber so much. Every day I'm Ubering 2 or 3 times while I'm there, because we'd have them take us to some place to do some sightseeing stuff, hop in an Uber, get a drive back someplace else. And it was really convenient. Now, the cars that were there, there's a whole vintage section I had a bunch of pictures of that was like tucked into one corner, where they had that the solid back window car with the vented deck lid and all that stuff.
Like an old kitty,
like a Type 38. I can't remember exactly which one it was. There was so much going on. I was just trying to get to look at everything. I've got another video coming out of the guys that make the supercharger kits. So I've got that video queued up, ready to come out this week probably. That's going to be super cool. It was like $2,000, dude, for a complete supercharger kit.
Yeah, but lacks displacement. Like,
It's
you can't put on
it's
big
designed.
displacement.
It's not for a big motor. It's designed for
Designed for
if you got a
smaller.
1600 and you want to build a 2180, whatever, you'd put the supercharger kit on there. You're another 40 horsepower, and you're 90 horsepower, and you're cruising, dude.
Yeah.
And you've got nice, all under deck lid, all brand new. You guys will see when I put the video out. So speaking of videos.
I wonder that would do in El Crasso, like get rid of the dual carbs and do a blower.
Oh,
since
I'm
it's small
sure.
displacement,
I'm sure, dude.
And
It
then
would
dual carb
run like
or
a mother.
dual ported. I'd bet boogie.
Yeah, and so I would suggest that first you guys get on there. Everybody's listening to this podcast, get on there, subscribe to my YouTube channel. George also has a YouTube channel that you guys need to subscribe to. George is putting out tutorial stuff. I'm putting out content of interviews with people, their cars, stuff like that. We just came out with one. Chris Gosting, a guy here in town, came to one of the shows. First show he went to. He lives in Pahrump. He's from Southern California originally, if you haven't seen the video.
I got a real gripe about that, bro. I didn't get filming credit.
Yeah, George filmed it. So when you guys look at the sunlight and the thing and all that stuff, that's George, dude.
That's George without
bro.
glasses.
He got a talking to, dude. I was like, don't you ever
You're
film
the one who
anything
stood
without
there.
glasses again.
I was like, man, this is a bad spot to stand.
Bro, I can't direct, come up with the script and everything all at
You were
once.
directing, bro.
So
Let's take a direction.
But listen, we got some good content out there. Super, super clean notch, dude. Super clean notch.
Yeah,
It's
for a home,
and that motor.
And I'm not even going to put the disclaimer or the caveat in front of it for a home build. It's just a clean notch. I don't care if it's
clean.
shop build or home build. It's clean.
Yeah.
Like Chris's attention to detail is
He's got to have some patience, bro.
Yeah.
He has got to have some patience because
he's got a lot of attention to detail. It's very high, his standards, which is good. If you're going to build something like that, it needs to be that way.
But
his AC unit under the dash. Like, I hate air conditioning in VWs because the under dash part is so ugly.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a dealer installed one or the newer ones they put out. They're ugly. They're cheap. They're plastic. They look bad. His looks clean.
Yeah,
it's all metal.
Look super clean.
It's all formed. It has legit vents in it. I was super impressed with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him get that car on the road. And he just moved to Southern
Shame
Nevada
about that
here.
Corvair engine, but
that motor sounds so good, dude.
It did sound good.
It sounds so good. I would love to see how that thing runs, man. Probably
strong.
just torque for days. And
don't you own one of those? Isn't it the same thing? The car can't be much bigger.
That's a lot different weight wise in that car. That's a heavier car, dude. The Corvair is a heavier car.
You think? Than a Notch?
I know, dude.
Let's look at this up, man.
We'll look it up in just a second,
Yeah.
but
get the Googles on this.
Yeah, I'll get the Google on it. And so that was really cool to do that. And so what I'm going to start doing, one of the things I'm going to start doing for my short 15-minute videos, I think I'm going to start first and do.
Man,
I'm going to do some
I
videos.
consider 15 minutes a long video. Like when I'm editing, I'm like, dang, I'm already up to 15. Dang it.
You got at least 15 minutes. And so I'm going to do a walk around video on all my cars. I'm going to do the story of each one of my cars and kind of a walk around just showing the specs and all that kind of stuff. Because I've had some people like, hey, you need to do a walk around the carbon cab. You need to do this because maybe some people have never seen it. And I started thinking like, maybe I'll put a draggy in a car, which is the GPS that shows you the performance specs in the car. Mm-hmm. And we'll take the car and we'll just kind of run it through the specs, see how fast it goes, how fast it stops. Nothing super crazy, but like 0 to 60.
You got one of those draggies?
Yeah, I'm getting one. So they're not expensive.
Can't you get an app?
Yeah, well, you can get an app, but the draggies are pretty accurate. You kind of mount them in the car just temporarily. But it's what a lot of the guys use for their drag racing stuff. But I just think
then you can break down the specs of each one of your individual vehicles.
I think it would be cool if I took every car that we had and I took it and ran it and did the draggy specs on it, kind of edited the video, and at the end I just put the specs of the vehicle, how fast it went, how quick it stopped, and then my personal opinion of how it drove, how it felt to drive, all that kind of stuff. And then maybe almost do like a ranking of the performance, the whatever, because I think it's just kind of cool. So be on the lookout for those. I'm going to start doing a bunch of those videos. And I may just start with all the cars.
Job.
There's so many cars in Vegas that I can do videos like I did on Chris's car. With the only thing I'm missing from Chris's car is a ride along in his car, like a ride along and the performance specs and stuff like that. And we may do a follow up with that. But I think it's a cool concept, and I've got another concept of videos that I won't mention here because I don't want to be still the concept. But I'm gonna put another series of videos out in the next 30 days. That'll be some pretty cool videos. You guys will like them, and I think they'll be universally palatable for anybody in the hobby. But I'll talk to you about those off the air, George. But I've already done a bunch of video footage for it because I've been planning on putting them out, and I just didn't sit down. It's just going to be more of a voiceover video type stuff, but. Yeah, Volksworld was a great time. YouTube channel is up and going. Make sure you guys subscribe to George's YouTube channel. The One Crazy Weekend is set and ready to go for this year. So,
are we wrapping it up?
No.
Let's go back to Volksworld here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you were walking around and I would FaceTiming me like the level of cars inside is there an inside and an outside? So like the inside is invited cars. Explain how they lay it out.
So the inside is like show builders that are going to be debuting cars. So like all the show cars that you won't be driving around or get rained on, they're going to be inside. There's limited space in there.
Are they invited inside or first come first serve? What do you know?
That I don't know, but I think everybody's got a spot. There's Irv. There's a guy from the west. He's from the east coast of England, and he's up there by an area called the Lakes region or something like that. And this cat he had 8 or 9 cars there at the show, full restored, his son's car, customers' cars, all kinds of stuff, and all top-notch stuff. And Irv's a guy, he's just a solid dude. I chatted with him for a little bit. I tried to get him upstairs to come on the podcast. He was a little shy, but he really wanted me to come out to his shop. And he says he's got a shop where he's got about 100 cars under restoration out there. It's insane, dude. Porsches and buses.
How many employees he got?
He's got a fleet of
I
employees.
would hope so. 100
Yeah.
restos? Oh, my God.
It's nuts.
I got 2 and I'm having a nightmare.
So the next
of a
time I go out there, I'll do a shop tour. I did a little shop tour of Andy's place. So I haven't put that video together yet. That'll be a short video, but I did a little shop tour, kind of a thing, shot some video of Andy spraying a car.
And we walked away from the Volksworld thing, the inside, outside.
But so on the inside, there's you walk through, and as you come in the main entrance, there was the two. There's because it's like a interior
I noticed
space.
also the cars have the
stanchions,
like ropes around them and stuff. Yeah.
So all the cars inside have stanchions around them. So you just kind of walk through these corridors.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a really, when I say mini, like a super mini SEMA show setup, like an interior setup.
Yeah.
And there may have been, if I had to guess, put a number on it, I'd say 60 cars inside. Inside. And then outside, there's another 100 cars. You know, it was this year. Usually outside is just jam packed. I mean, the whole camping area.
Are
is
you
full.
saying that one crazy weekend got more cars?
No, I can't say that because I don't know.
Joke.
Well, I don't know 100% because I didn't count. You know, I was going.
But you'd
crazy.
estimate about 60 to 100 cars on the inside.
60 to 100 cars inside, and
because I mean, I saw videos like people walk around. It looks pretty big.
It's big. Another 100 cars or more outside because it's 2 days. So outside, the lineup changes each day outside. And
are people still camping on site, like at the inside the racetrack?
So when you saw that video when I was out in that little parking lot, there's a little tiny swap meet. If you look in the background, I do one shot where I'm looking over. Just outside of that, across this drive, there's a huge grassy area where everybody's just out there in their campers, just camping out. So there's a big camp out. I mean, there's hundreds of cars.
Do they still do the rave
there.
things like we used to hear about back in the day and all that stuff, the DJing and whatnot? Or
so I didn't see there was someone doing some music there, but it wasn't like when I went last time. They had like a big half pipe set up outside with a BMX show and a skateboard show.
And how many years ago was that?
That was in 2017. So based on that, talking to the people, the powers that be, the people that know, they say, based on the way this year kind of worked out, it wasn't the best it could have been. And so next year they're kind of pulling the pin on this thing and going no holds barred. So it's going way up, ramped up next year.
What is the reason why it wasn't?
Because of the weather and
COVID
Mother's Day.
Stuff?
Weather and Mother's Day.
Okay.
Because Mother's Day weekend. So it kind of just flopped on that. And when setting up shows, sometimes you only can get the date they'll give you for the venue.
Yep.
So it's a great venue to have. I
love the advice we get from people. You know when you should do this? Oh, when should we do this?
Yeah. So that show was just great. There were so many cars, and there's a big vendors thing inside. On the second floor, they have like a kids play place, and then over on the second floor in another location, they had speakers. And I didn't get a chance to sit down with Johannes, who's the guy out of Sweden who builds he's the guy that builds the 200 horsepower 1600 revs to like 9,000 RPM and the super lightweight stuff, and he's like the tech guy of Sweden for building like super high performance small displacement motors. So I've reached out to him via Facebook. So I met him face to face. I said I want to get you on the podcast, and I was trying to wrap up a podcast to get up and listen to his talk. So they do a couple talks. They had Dean Kirsten and Dave Andrews and Ron Fleming kind of go upstairs and talk about the Cowlooks stuff. I wasn't there. I was recording podcasts during that time, so I didn't get an opportunity to sit around and listen to any of that. But it was good. I mean, like I said, there's thousands of people come to this event, and I met a ton of listeners to the podcast.
Awesome.
Like I was, my wife is giving me a hard time about, oh, you're like a celebrity up here. And I'm like, no, I'm just a car idiot with a microphone. Yeah. So I'm the same as these guys here, but it was a good time to meet the guys. I met some guys from the London Dub Club. I met some guys from Dead House, and I met just a bunch of listeners that got on the podcast, and guys that haven't even been on the podcast yet. I met a guy from Germany. If you're on the Samba, you probably know there was a guy who owns the oldest deluxe bus that he fully restored it. There's a big blog that he did on it. I don't know anything on it because I don't really follow the restored stuff.
Yeah.
This bus was in Germany, and it was like a bus that the whole village knew of, this bus that was in the woods, and like an old homeless guy used to live in this bus. And then this guy kind of went down, followed this lore, found the bus, and then dug it out. And this is one of those B-pillar restorations, right? Like it had the front and the B pillar, and they dug it up out of the dirt, fully restored it, and then went back for a parade that they had in the city, and this bus was in there, and he tracked down some people that the previous owner for the bus and all kind of cool stuff. But it's a really cool story, and he's a German guy, and my plan is to get him on the podcast because it's another great story of like finding this car and then the history of this car, like how old it is. It may have even been one of the white top Sambas because the early Sambas had white tops on it. It was a chestnut brown.
When you say the top, from the rain gutter
from
up,
the rain gutter
or
up,
from the belt
rain
line?
gutter up was white. So it's chestnut sealing wax and white. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yeah, it's wild. The early deluxes are like that. So just so many people I got to meet over there, not to mention people that listen to the podcast. So what was one of the fun stories was I ran into the guys from Dead House, and they were like, "Oh, dude, what's up, Bill T?" And they're all like, "Dude, I can't believe you're here." I'm like, "Yeah, bro." I'm like one of you idiots, bro. They're like, one of our buddies just called us and said he's coming up. He said he couldn't make it to the show, but he said you were going to be here. I'm like, "Bro, he's not here." I'm like, "Turn on your camera." Let's send him a message. So I'm like, "Happy Saturday, bro. But where are you at? You didn't come to Volksworld, dude. I came all the way here to see you." But it was pretty funny because his buddies were just like dying. They were just like, "Oh, that's legit." But it was so cool to meet people that listen to the podcast. And if you listen to the podcast, you just appreciate the hobby on such a deeper level. And I have to give a shout out to Craig Watkins. Craig Watkins is a friend, and he raced with Greg Aronson. He reached out to me, and I showed you the book he sent me earlier. And he was an engineer for Porsche's Flying Lizard racing team. He wrote a book about Cosmo. You have the book? The guy's name is, how you say it? Yeah. It's the Kusmal Chronicles. Man, I'm telling you right now, this book, I'm not a reader.
Thicker.
Dude. I'm going to let you know this right now.
Thicker than a Snicker.
I'm not a reader. The way it reads, it reads like you're reading a transcript to a podcast. Super
like a
cool.
Conversation.
It's super cool. And he just asks this, he's talking to this Roland Kusmal, and he was an engineer for Porsche for 36 years. The guy just had a really interesting life. And it's so neat because in this book, and you guys can look it up, it's spelled Kussmaul, and I'll put a link to where you can buy this book in the description. Totally
Kusmal
cool.
Chronicles.
Yeah, Kusmal Chronicles it's called, and he was an engineer for Porsche for years, and they go from starting with the 914s all the way to everything. And what's such a cool story about it is because it shows that Porsche, their engineering they did, like they wouldn't just like work on something and all right, that's not working, let's switch gears. Like they would solve the issue with whatever they're working with and keep pushing through it. And he makes an interesting statement in here, right? He says, and the author of this book, Craig Watkins, the author of this book, he makes a statement in here. He says, and this is an engineer. I mean, Craig's an engineer, right? He's a pretty smart guy. And he says, there's no way that I could ever learn what they learned because they were doing it as they learned it. So there's a different method of learning. And all of the experiences going up to that pinnacle, when you turn a corner, like we just discovered this and all these years we've been doing that. And then when us as new school people come to the game, we're like, oh, everyone just does this. Well, what did you do before you did that? What did you do before you did that? And so he says, he didn't have enough time in his life to even get the understanding of engineering as Roland Kusmal did. And it's super cool because as you're in this book, and so I'm looking at this book, I'm like inspired, like, dude, I can do a book. I can do a book for some of the podcast history, because what he has in his book is he has photographs and stories, and then he has QR codes where you can click on the QR code and it takes you to a 6-minute video of the actual interview he's doing with the guy with some other pictures that are not in the book. And you're hearing him tell the story, because part of what I love about the podcast that he captures in the book with those QR codes is that people's mannerisms, their verbal speech patterns, all that stuff. When you're talking to somebody for an hour, you get to really understand the character of the person, like who they are and whether they're jovial or depressing or, kind of a fun hang around guy. So it's really cool because he said that was one of the reasons he wanted to have those in there, so you could actually hear his thick accent, hear all this stuff, because there's a certain, it's all those pieces and parts that make an individual who they are. So it's a cool book. Check it out. It's the Koosmal Chronicles, and it's written by Craig Watkins. Check it out. It's a great book. I'm not a reader. It's an easy read. It's got rad pictures in it. And I assure you this, you're going to learn a lot about some of the development that they gain out of racing. And it just tells these super interesting stories where, Craig as an engineer, Patrick Long is racing one of their Porsches and comes in the corner and starts saying, in turn 3, it's lifting on the left side. It's doing this over here. It's doing that over there. It's doing this. And Craig says, oh, I think they should bump this down and do this. And then Roland says, he says to do the opposite of what the other engineer is thinking.
Yeah.
And he's like, and without anything, because he gives credence to the history that Roland has. And he says,
for sure,
do what he says, and you're going to turn it this way and turn it 3 clicks clockwise, or whatever the case is, tells the guy to do what Roland suggested. And he says, I've learned that with the experience these people have, you may be thinking one thing, and it's always refreshing to compare it against something. Because have you ever worked with anybody where you think it's something that's the opposite of the way that it is, and they say, no, it's the opposite, and then they just explain it to you where it's just like,
and it makes sense,
like a brand new day. You're like, oh wow, yeah, I never thought of it from that perspective. So it's just cool stories like that are in there, and again, that's part of the passion that's really fueled doing the podcast and getting the interviews. Because when you're talking to these people, and like when a little sneak peek for like doing the Auto House, right? Auto House started when, Ron Rosevear and his brother, they were selling stereos. Like he worked for Craig Electronics, like Craig Stereos.
Yeah, Craig. I know what you're talking about.
And they started a little stereo shop. Him and his brother started a partnership as a stereo shop. And then some Japanese guy walks in one day and has VW exhaust. He's like, hey, say these shiny chrome exhausts, and you can buy them super cheap. And he's like, man, Volkswagen. And he was a Volkswagen driver. He bought the first Volkswagen that was available in Utah, I think it was. And he drove it to Southern California when he relocated to Southern California to work there. It's just such a cool story. And then it's like, it's this flash of a business opportunity. And then boom, he goes into business to not only become like Auto House. When you hear the story of what they did with Auto House, and like, it was a different world back then, and he was doing cutting edge stuff. Like, not only did he own Auto House, but his wife, who was his girlfriend at the time that he hired from a graphic school, she did Graphic House because everything was catalogs then. Mm-hmm. So he started a company making catalogs. So not only was he making catalogs, he was making his competition's catalogs, making everybody's had a separate company that was doing mail order catalog, like just doing catalogs. So, and then that's how I'm trying to think who I was talking to, and he's like, well, yeah, that's how VW Trends started, because Ron Rosevear I think he was having Graphic House make his catalog for his biker parts. He sold motorcycle parts. Mm-hmm. And Tom McMullen is the guy that started VW Trends magazine. And so it was like, I'm making this catalog for motorcycle parts. Hey, we're going to make one for Auto House, but we're going to put VW stuff. And then it ends up being like, VW Trends magazine. So there's all this evolution comes from there. He was one of I don't know who in those days was going to like, I can't think of the name of the muffler shop. Like Four Tuned Exhaust or one of those guys. He would go to him and say, well, I want you guys to make these exhausts, but I want you to put them in boxes with Auto House names on them. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, so now you're private labeling stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing all this stuff. And then he started doing consignments with like Bill Stein and all these guys. He's like, yeah, I'll sell your carburetors. You just got to give them to me up front to, as I sell them, I'll send you the payment for it. So it's like, we got it in stock. It was such a different time of parts and manufacturing, stuff like that. And then when he got somebody that was going to leave, I'm giving too much away the podcast, but when somebody's going to leave, like his manager's going to leave, he's like, well, why don't you just open your own store? We'll let you open it under the name Auto House and just buy your stuff from me. Okay. So it's like, instead of lose the business, like, hey, let's use my name. You go over there, you already got the brand, and just buy your parts from me, and you can buy other parts from other people, but we'll supply all your auto house stuff, your race trim stuff, and so that's how like it's such a neat story of how it just built from like, hey, we could buy 100 of these. You know, he buys 100 mufflers. He's like, what are we doing with these 100 mufflers? But it's so crazy how
100 VWs in town.
How all these things start, and that's the part because I don't know. Auto house is way before our time. You know, we were in it, but they shut down in like 83, 84. You know, so it's like, and they opened up in 64. So. John Lazenby, who's going to be coming on the podcast, he's DKP1 store manager for Auto House, and then he's got a lot of history in the VW world, a lot. And so there's a lot of people in the history. There's the names you know, and there's names you're not. Like, how many people have you been introduced in? Just listen to the podcast that you didn't even know who they were.
Everybody.
Because there's the STP, right?
You've always studied it. I was just, I'm obviously a VW enthusiast,
right? But
I didn't worry about the minutia of it. Like
right.
Let's look at what's right here, what's happening now.
Yeah, and
never really got into history.
Yeah,
no, that's coming from an outsider coming in. That's the thing that I appreciate about it because these people I don't know, even the Ricky James one. That was a great listen. I don't know Ricky James.
Bro.
I saw his bus. I'm like, oh, that thing's sick. And then you find out that thing was done in the 90s.
From 92.
Yeah.
92. Narrowed beam, Porsche brakes, like all this stuff. And George Schmidt, another guy with the butcher shop. I talked to him for probably 30 minutes. There's so many times where I'm done talking to somebody, pitching them to do the podcast. I look at the phone. We've done 40 minutes already.
And like, we should have just recorded it.
And they've done these little blurbs of these, like, oh, yeah.
This gold.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, I wish I was recording this right now.
Or did you take notes when you make those calls, hopefully?
No, because a lot of times I'm just driving and I'm like, hey, you know, I wanted to talk to you. So George Schmidt should be coming on soon. I mean, I've got so many
George
people.
Schmidt?
He's the butcher shop.
Okay.
He's one of the first guys.
the butcher shop?
Do you ever remember that panel bus that used to be at the shows that had a big, it was painted red and black and had the supercharger, the Judson supercharger? That was his logo. Bus. Yeah. So he's been doing narrowed beams since, I mean, the early 90s on buses and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of history that
bus was laid out, right? Like it was rockers were on the ground. I'm pretty sure that one was body dropped.
Well,
if I remember.
Well, like I said, he's been involved with a lot of stuff.
And he had some crazy tubs in the interior of it.
And no, I'm not sure because back then they were running small wheels. They just run small wheels to get them lower. But we'll get the story on that bus. But he's also George at the butcher shop. When I was talking to him, because Alex with Flat for Media turned me on to him, and I was like, I've heard of George, but I don't know who he is. I've heard of the butcher shop. Then I ran into him at Aaron's place down at Foothill Fabrication. And so we started talking, and I'm like, yeah, I'd like to just get your history. Because for me, it's sometimes I don't even know who they are. I'm like, I'd like to get your history and find out what you're doing. And then we start peeling back the layers, and it's like, oh, we were at that same show together, but I didn't even know who you were, and you were one of the guys that was doing this. And he eventually has gone into doing, like, he does a lot of barn door restorations, like really rare barn door stuff. He's been involved with a lot of restorations. And he said one of the guys he builds cars for in New York, he's like, oh, you know, you need to go on that guy's podcast, the guy that does the podcast with the stuff. So there's a guy in New York that listens to the podcast that has a collection of Volkswagen. So
shout out to dude in New York, bro.
Yeah. And he told me his name and I can't remember off the top of my head, but
he's listening. He knows who he is.
These are the parts and pieces that I love so much of the hobby, on top of how quickly the hobby changes, how tomorrow there could be some find of some rare coach built or some bug that nobody knew existed, or the Freddy Flies one, right? Freddy Flies. I keep saying Freddy Flies. When I did Frederick Peters with the EBI guy.
Okay.
European bugging, and they start talking about that bug that was built in Belgium, and it was a 65 only, and it had an Okrasa motor in it. Did you listen to that podcast yet? Or are you behind, bro?
Is that last week's?
Frederick Peters, week before last. The guy, he's got the Belgian accent, heavy Belgian accent. He talks about European bugging.
I don't know if I listened to that one.
Yeah, because they talk about.
I am behind on my Let's Talk Dubs, but only like 2 weeks.
Get it together, bro.
Get your life right.
Get your life right. Get your life right, bro. I'm about to fire you. This close to getting fired, George. This close to getting fired. Then I'll hire you back for the next.
What am I going to do without that check?
So, but he talks about that. And here's the crazy part: they were on the cover of Hot VWs, and the cover of Hot VWs does not say rare Mach 1 Beetle built only in Belgium. That would make you look at the cover and go, wow, what's so rare about this? ask the question, what's so rare? And you start looking at it. It's just too.
Why aren't you a magazine editor?
It's not even that. It's like what I'm saying is like what you're
Opportunity
selling.
missed,
You're
is what you're
selling
saying?
something. Well, it's the same thing with Creighton Mueller's first chop top bug. It was in the magazine.
A blip, yeah, a little
and
blurb.
everybody has it. It's a 2013 issue of Hot VWs. It's like this funky purple, red and purple one, and the pictures, and you don't get it. And if on the cover of the magazine they had the black and white insert of the first picture that was taken, and it says, "Is this the first chop top bug ever?" You'd read the article.
Yeah.
You'd read it just to see what it was. You would look at it because before you look at it and you're thinking like, oh, this is a Midwest build. No big deal. It's done with a style that doesn't really resonate with anybody. Well, then if you look at it through the lens of understanding what it is, like this is the first chopped bug built in 1954. It's like, whoa, that's why all the wiring is white.
Yeah.
That's why he converted it to right-hand drive. He body dropped it. He channeled it. He like, oh, there's a dimple in the deck lid. Why? Because he body dropped it and the pulley
Motors
was
up
going
higher.
to, yeah. I mean, it's like, there's so many things about it that you can't appreciate unless you're reading every page of the magazine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of us don't do that. We're kind of got lazy, just look at the glossy pictures and then you're out. You
I
know?
lost faith in the magazines when we did Bull Run,
So,
and they didn't want to cover it. I couldn't believe that.
well,
When you called them when we got back, I was like listening to you, and you're like, and I think we were talking to RK at one of the shows, and they was like,
yeah,
the
bus was
like this
already,
whole like thing about it, like we're about to be on national TV. Like I know it's not ABC or CBS, but it was still a cable TV show.
Eventually they put like a little blurb in the.
Did they?
I think. I'm not even
Maybe.
100% sure.
That was insane to me.
Yeah, but
When I saw it, I said, these magazines all suck, huh?
well, listen,
I don't know if y'all know this, but
it's-
y'all kind of suck.
it's a platform where it's for the hobby, and it's.
Don't get me wrong, I love magazines.
It should be. There's got to be a bit of what's contemporary and what's going on in there. So
It should make you want to crack it open.
yeah, it should motivate you to do something, or
Yeah.
or kind of give you some perspective on some history. And the history stuff, it's hard because people don't read. And now with a podcast, you can just flip it on, and
Yeah.
while you're driving to your next
I
destination,
used to be a reader. I don't read anymore.
yeah, it's just too
Also
much
my
work.
eyes, but also like I just don't read. Like I used to read every night.
Yeah, bro, you're blind as a mother, dude.
I'm getting there, dude.
So,
It's old age, bro. 50 in like 3 weeks.
but yeah, that's right.
50.
Getting old.
It's
getting
50.
old, bro.
It's
So,
50.
But yeah, other than that, Volksworld was great. I'm looking forward to go. So I'm going back. I'm going
Yeah.
back in September for the Air Mighty show.
Lucky you.
So you guys will get your Let's Talk Dubs exclusive, bro. By that time, if you deadbeats go, listen to me. You haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go subscribe to it, because once I get up to 1,000 subscribers, I can YouTube live, and my plan will be to YouTube live some of these events when I go out there, and just kind of carry the camera along with me and do a walk around and talk around on these cars, and I take you guys to Belgium, take you guys to Holland with me. So
Is that really a thing? You have to have a certain number of subscribers
Yes.
to live it, huh?
to live stream, yeah. You can't just be clogging up their server with some
Why
nonsense,
people do all the
man.
time on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, stuff like that, you could do.
Boy, it
Ah,
is. You know, it's like so-and-so's going live. Like, nope.
Yeah, so-and-so's going live.
Nope.
And usually everybody's got the camera sitting still for like 5 minutes. Like, we got people on yet? We got people on? Are we ready?
Are
Is
we
everybody ready? Yeah. And
Mhm.
and maybe they're doing it right.
Sure.
I'm doing it wrong. I just fire away. You know what I mean?
Fire.
But
Short and sweet, man. To the
yeah.
point.
So recent things that I have been up to. You guys saw that I was at the Bug Inn recently, and when I was at the Bug Inn down there, I picked up some 5-spoke ET wheels, and those are going to go on the Beetle Barn bus. I'm going to be dropping the Beetle Barn bus about 4 inches. We're going to do straight axle kit in the back.
No man drop.
So, and matter of fact, but before I do that, I think we're headed out next week to
Moab.
We're going to be headed out to Moab to go check out that Ottinger kind of get together thing over there. So I talked to Tony Brown, a bunch of those guys from Utah are going out there. So I want to meet a bunch of those dudes out, and I'm going to tow out the limo bus out there so I could take Beetle Barn bus out there, which would be pretty cool to have everybody check it out. And I always get torn because I look at it and I think like, this thing looks so nice with all new window rubber and all that, you know what I mean, and not look all
I don't think
ratty
that'd
and
be a
crusty.
bad thing.
Huh?
That wouldn't be a bad thing to change all the winter rubber.
Man, yeah, ready, set, go.
It's a good
So-
thing you know somebody.
Yeah. So besides that, I think we're gonna be taking the Gia over to Georgia's shop pretty soon. I want to get all the parts and pieces, get it rolling. I just need the wheels powder coated the right color or painted to match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Need to get that sea blue, send them over to the shop.
Well, if they're already powder coated, we can always scuff and shoot paint on them.
Yeah,
all the prep work's done to them.
No.
Or get them blasted clean again.
I would just scuff them, and shoot them, and then but then after I was going to Volksworld, dude, I saw that Type 34 again. I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna cut the lips. I'm gonna cut the face off them wheels and 3-piece them mothers. Yeah, that's right, George. Broke his neck off his shoulders. He just snapped his neck. Like, what? Say what?
Yeah, once you see a multi-piece wheel on a car, you just can't go back to regular wheels.
Well, everybody got
just change you, bro.
Everybody's got.
They just change you, bro.
Every girl at the mall has multi-piece BBS wheels. Don't get excited, dude. You ain't the first.
Oh, you wish, bro.
Well, we're talking about next level stuff.
Some of us are forging paths, others following them.
Bro, I was doing 17s when you were 17, bro.
Were you?
Pull it together, dude.
Were you, bro?
I want you to take both hands and pull it together. Now, listen. The gangster boogie stuff is taking wheels and 3-piece and wheels that they don't make in a 3-piece. That's the gangster boogie stuff.
I'm just busy hand fabricating steering wheels for a bus, okay? Or steering columns.
So we'll run through my project list real quick. It's getting stacked. It's getting deep. I still got George.
Today I was working on the hydraulic pump, getting the mounting under the seat.
Yeah.
I made the panel for holding the switches. It's going to go right side of the steering wheel.
Yeah, we're
I actually got to go to McFadden and Dale in the morning and get hardware for yours because, of course, why wouldn't it have standard hardware on the bottom?
It's only $7,000, dude. No need.
And I was going to put two
hardware.
M10 1.5s on the other side of it. And I said, no way. I need to go get the exact same hardware. So at least holding the
side what?
To hold the hydraulic pump to the body.
Oh,
2 of them actually go through
but I think
and mount to the pump.
I think you need to rubber mount it. It needs to be rubber. I'd rather have it rubber
That's fine.
mounted.
I'll get isolators from there too.
Just get a thick piece of rubber. Just get a
They probably sell an isolator for it.
Just get a 1 square foot pad of rubber to put underneath it. I think that'd be better because it'll absorb a little bit of vibration too. But so the Bull Run bus will be ready by October. I think by October we'll have it
painted.
Yeah. Well, homie will paint it quick. My boy KPD is gonna knock it out the park, dude.
All right.
I'm gonna run it. As soon as you got a steering wheel in that, dude, that's going right down to KPD and getting painted, dude.
Yeah, we tried that one already.
We're working on a steering wheel, so we're doing that.
My part's done, dude. I'm doing what I can do.
The Bull Run bus is getting lowered. But this weekend we're going to go to that Ottinger thing. But it's going to get lowered and get put on those big Daddy 5 spokes.
The Bull Run bus is already lowered. That thing is laid out. You meant the Beetle Barn
bus.
Okay.
And we're going to be putting that thing on those 5 spokes, dropping a little bit, and then I'll do the interior in it, and then I'm going to leave it like that. As much as it pains me not to redo the whole thing, I'm going to leave it like that. I may respray the roof. I'm going to take the roof racks and rip them off that thing so it's a big, long bullet. And then I picked up a Myers Manx. So I ended up getting a Myers Manx, an original Manx, and it's in my backyard right now. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I got it for a good deal. And I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing with it right now. But it's all there. It needs to be assembled. Still a lot of work on it. But I was almost thinking that would be a perfect platform to bass boat flake that thing. And do kind of a retro rod and put that Lee Layton supercharged motor in the back of that just for a display car. That'd be so cool to do.
Do a very 60s Gasser theme looking paint job.
Just something cool and have that motor in
was
there.
Was that a Gasser car, the Scorpion? Was it a Gasser?
Well, I don't know.
Or a rail?
I can't tell you because it was in a rail. The Scorpion was in a rail. Yeah. Right. So I've got that. I bought a Puma, not Puma.
A TC.
A TC Gia, which I may see if Big Brian can meet us over there in
Moab.
In Moab, because he's
nowhere near.
Oh yeah,
Salt Lake.
Oh, no, he's not in Salt Lake, bro.
Where's he at?
He's in Colorado. He's in what's it called?
Grand Junction.
Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So he's got to go through to.
Yeah, we're on the east side of Utah when we go to Moab. So
right.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something like that, and I'm gonna go. I got to pick up that, and then I got from Mike up in Pennsylvania. I sent him all the rockers and all that stuff for the GTV bug. So he's going to be doing that because later this summer, my wife and I are going to go back east and drive the GTV bug back across. And she was she was fired up yesterday, bro. I'm telling you right now. I was talking about the podcast and she's in vacation mode, bro, since we went to Europe. And she was like, you need to get the Bull Run bus back on the road and we'll just take that thing across country and do podcasts and blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, yeah, let's do that. But I got to get the bus done first. So But that would be rad. I think
Yeah.
and I think that's what I might do. Once I get it done, I'll just hit the road and start doing podcasts. I mean, how cool would that be, right? You'd watch that show, wouldn't you?
It's what we're working on it for.
Right? Van life, living that van life, driving, sleeping,
Mobile
podcasting,
podcast studio, bro.
everything, bro.
Mobile podcast studio.
Nah, bro, I'm
Clean
gonna
and
get
simple.
I'm really.
Hey, just move my underwear off that microphone. You can talk into it.
You might peel those off of there. I might peel those off of there.
Hang on, let me knock these dirty socks out.
Yeah.
I sleep back here. Can you tell?
So, yeah, George thinks he's funny.
You got money. You get a hotel room, right, bro?
Yeah. So I think that would be cool to do. I definitely once the bowling bus is done, dude. George is cracking himself up.
Just the visuals of the mic boom arm with underwear.
Bro, that's what it's like in prison, dude. You gotta dry your stuff. You gotta dry your stuff, dude. Whatever,
Hey, man. Whatever it takes, bro.
Whatever it takes, dude. That's what I learned, dude.
All the pop outs are open. Socks on each one.
Socks on each pop out, hanging to dry, dude. It's Florida, dude. It never
Yeah,
dries.
you got
Everything's
jail
wet.
bars in the back. What else are they there for?
But what other projects do I have? Oh, and I think
Too many.
I think the other thing that's going
Let's
to
see,
happen.
the transmission needs to be rebuilt in Future Shock. That's got to happen.
No, it doesn't.
Otherwise,
It
just
needs
leaks
to be
profusely.
resealed, bro.
Well, regardless, it needs to be
I
taken
know, I
out.
gotta
and
drop it.
fixed.
I got to get that done before October. So that car.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen is I got to get the Gia. I got to pull the wheels out, go get them powder coated. I got to go to my guy that still has my glove box so I can go get the paint matched and then take that to get the wheels painted to match so I can put tires on them so I can get the brakes on the car so I can get it rolling over to your shop so I can just have you start working on getting that thing put together because they ain't never going to get put together sitting over here, dude.
No.
There's too much stuff in the way, dude. I mean, I'll get fired up and put like an emblem on and then walk away. But, yeah, gas me out, bro. Gas me out.
Done.
So, and then, Buddy, hopefully Buddy will get my split to me in the next, month or so. I'm hoping he's just got to paint the fenders. So get the split. Jeez, I got too many cars, bro.
You do. Really do.
Whew. So the GTV is.
You're not that rich.
No.
You're
Well,
not.
they're all Volkswagen. These are all single digit cars, bro. We ain't talking like these are 5-digit cars. You know what
I
I'm
don't think
saying?
that split falls under that
Is that 5
category.
digits, 4 digits, dude. These are 4-digit cars, dude. The split I paid $12,000 for.
It's got a Mendy suspension underneath front and back. It's got a Berg 5-speed
You don't
in it.
count
It's got
my-
a Type
if you
4
spent
motor.
it-
Like, come on now.
Bro, if you spent it if you spent it more than 10 years ago, it don't
It doesn't
matter.
count.
It don't count.
It's like free.
it's like
It's like
you
I got it
for
back.
free. It's like a
I
sponsorship.
got it back.
I sponsored me. Yeah, that's money under the bridge, bro. I mean, and I just think like, man, if I just taken that money and put it into an IRA, where would it
If
be
only.
today? But listen,
You'd
you can't
be in the
dri-
same
can't-
spot, a little boringer than
look,
you are
bro,
now.
You can't drive an IRA, dude. I'm
Nope.
show you.
Nope.
So, yeah, this year could be a big year for me. It could be a big year, but the Gia TC, I think that the Gia TC, I'm half tempted to get.
Hey, man, can we just finish one of the 3 you have going right now before we bring another one into the mix?
Listen, the
Do you
Gia
think maybe?
the Gia TC is going to
Because
be.
let me guess, the Corvair is somewhere in this mix too. Like, well, all I want to do is just do a little something on the turbo over there.
No, I've got a carburetor come for the new side
okay.
drive come for the Corvair, but the Corvair been running good till like I think a rocker fell off. I'm not sure, dude. I was living my life
Hang on.
driving that car.
A
dude.
rocker fell off of that and
No,
the
just a
chop rod?
rocker. No, I just said just mine.
I thought the rag chop had a rocker come off.
No, rack chop's fine. I'm
Oh.
talking about the Corvair, bro. Stop.
All
it, dude.
right.
You don't listen.
That's
dude.
what I was thinking.
You
I
are
was like,
getting
man,
old.
I am.
You don't
Senile.
listen. You don't listen.
Senile and retarded. What do you want from me?
Careful, dude. Careful. But
Hey, self-deprecating. I can't be canceled for that.
What are you working on?
Oh, some black and red bus. Really annoying.
George
Just having to make all kinds of
George
silly
all-
parts from scratch. No
George
big deal.
Slap happy tonight.
That's only 11 o'clock at night. What's that?
It's 9, bro. He's 50 already. He's like, it feels like 11.
We got Thorne's bus is so close to getting to paint. A
Yeah.
few more blocking sessions on the outside. Exterior's all epoxied. I got the kid working on seam sealing right now. Yeah, we're moving along.
And then anything happened with the right-hand drive car? That's on hold for right now.
The right-hand drive is on hold, unfortunately. He lives in a very different world than we do.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with a lot of restrictions and whatnot that are affecting
They still
his
doing all
finances.
the COVID nonsense over there too?
He, just like 2 weeks ago, they got released from wearing masks. 2 weeks ago when he texted me. I was like, holy moly, are you serious?
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
And unfortunately, his business is not being subsidized by the government like they did here in America. So
That's a bummer.
there's priorities in life. He's got a family and stuff first. I said that all comes first. I'm not even charging him rent. I'm not charging him anything to keep it there because I understand he's in a predicament right now. But it will get done. It will.
Well, I've got my plate full with that, but I was talking about the Gia TC, which you just try to laugh all over and all that stuff. The Gia TC, listen to me. Listen carefully.
Can we save it for another podcast?
The Gia TC, what's probably going to happen with the Gia TC, it's going to get lowered, put some wheels on it, and I'm going to sell it.
Type 3, what's the chassis? Type 1 or Type 3?
It's a Type 1 chassis with a Type 3 motor in the back.
Is it going to be link pin or ball joint? Do you know?
I think it might be ball joint.
Yeah.
Because it's 4-lug.
I have a beam for it if you need to, 4-inch.
Narrowed?
Built it myself.
A ball joint beam?
Yeah.
Oh, just one of the leftover wagons from way back in the day?
Yep.
All right.
I built it for the Fertilin and I wasn't happy with the welds on it.
Adjusters in it?
It's built. It's
I'm thinking about doing a cow look action.
Just
on
the
it.
beam though.
I'm thinking about doing a cow look action on these silver center lines on there, dude. What you think about the polished center lines? The 4-lug center lines I got over there. I think it might look pretty.
It's funny. I have a guy came in looking for 4-lug center lines today.
No, 4-lug flat center lines or 4-lug full customs like I got, dude.
I don't know what full custom. Oh, you got some
Well,
razzmatazz out there.
Not razzmatazz. They're like an 8-hole or whatever.
What'd you call me, bro?
So, other than that, man, there's a ton of podcasts coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people at the. Go and check out this Ottinger thing in Moab. So I'll bring a lot. I'll get a lot of video put out for that. So that's going to be pretty cool. Apparently, there's a big car show that they do in Moab. That's just a universal car show. So a bunch of hot rodded guys show up over there. And Tony was telling me today, he's like, bro, if you bring that limo bus, people are going to go crazy because everybody's like cruising up and down the main boulevard over there because it's Moab, middle of nowhere. I think Moab stands for middle of nowhere, basement of Utah. I don't know.
Just throw letters in.
Whatever. It's nowhere, dude. There's like nothing going on out there. But it'd be cool to go to that dude's place, at Ottinger's place, and see those busts in the rafters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that's it, dude. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss? That
Go check out _wagon on YouTube. Check out my channel. Give it a follow if you're feeling froggy.
Go to letstalkdubs.com and pick up some. Get your stuff reserved for the car show. I've already got people reserved for the car show. Lots of people already reserved for the car show and the swap meet. And this year, one thing I did want to talk about.
Get your rooms booked, people. Seriously.
Yeah.
Before, we can't make special calls to Orleans for everybody who waited till last minute.
I'm not going to. I can't.
Yeah.
It's going to,
You're going to learn the hard way, people.
compared to last year, it's going to sell out. Now,
Yeah.
this year, we're doing something different. I'm using a software called Car Show Pros, which is going to have a placard in your window that's going to have a QR code, and people will be able to vote for your car. There's a 3-mile limit, so people can't just take the QR code, send it out to all their buddies, and have them vote. It only works within 3 miles of the radius, but I'm going to use that for part of the maybe top 20 picks or something like that. I may go up to top 30 picks. Why not? Give me your thoughts on it.
Because it can be a popularity contest, and I don't like that. I think the way we did it before with people walk around and truly picking the top 20 cars out of it is the way to do it. When you do something like People's Choice or whatever, friends make friends win, and that's annoying.
I don't think that's the case.
You will always get the ones that don't, but you always get a couple guys that will. Like they chase trophies and like, hey, vote for my car. Or they really push it like, hey man, take it easy, dude. You know, because that means any spectator that walks by, if some guy's just sitting in front of his car jocking it, like, "Hey man, give my car a vote." Give my car a vote.
But I think
my car a vote.
Those are just a top X amount, whether it's gonna be 20, 50, or whatever it's gonna be, depending on the turnout of cars. Because there's a lot of nice cars, and people need to get some sort of acknowledgement for bringing out a super nice car that normally wouldn't come out. Now, I'm almost thinking we will have a separate dedicated. So this year we will probably do best of show. Possibly best paint.
We'll do best of show, best paint, best interior,
most unique. probably.
We do mostly unique.
So, and I can put all those things on there. And what you can do when you click on that QR code, you will pick what you want to categorize that thing for.
We're mucking it up.
So no, I think I think it's going to make it easy.
It sounds like it. I hope it does. I just don't like the tomfoolery and shenanigans of people being able to get have their entire club vote on a car. We've been witness to it in our own friend circles, so that's why I'm just not a fan of it. I
just like it because I thought of it from the standpoint of tourists coming in, coming out there to look at the cars.
How about we say
the average person
spectator's
can vote.
Choice? Instead, it can't be people that are in the car show.
So I guess you really can't restrict it. We're working that out because I like the ability for people that come and look at your car that can just quickly do a little QR code and vote for your car. Mm-hmm. I just think that's cool.
Do they have to download an app and everything to vote for it?
No, it takes you right to a site and you just click that. And if I'm not mistaken, so as we start rolling out car show registration 60 days before or 30 days before the event, you'll get an email that will send you a link to fill out your car show profile, which would be upload a picture of your car so that when you come to the show, once you've pre-registered, you will have a pre-printed placard for your car that goes in your window. It's your registration number. It's got a picture of your car. It's got the QR code. It's got your specs on there, the name of your name, any special stuff. So I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That's the part that I like about it. Yeah.
I just don't
I like the QR code. You're too concerned with I think people...
When we just do a top 20... It should truly be the top 20 best cars out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, but so maybe we do a top 20 of our pick, and then we also do some People's Choice
maybe
awards.
A top 10 of People's Choice.
Top 5 People's Choice.
Top 5, yeah. I don't want to get too...
We'll see.
Not everybody needs a participation trophy.
No, I'm not. It's not for people that need it. I think for people that bring something out because it equalizes the playing field for people that bring something that might be not quote unquote all cool in the VW world, but to the average person, they really like it, and those people can get recognized. So, but
we'll work it out by the time you get to the show in October.
That's what we're going to be going for. So there's some new stuff to be looking at. We'll see. Maybe this could be the new way. But I met this guy at the SEMA show. I talked to him. I said, dude, I want to use your software at my car show. And so I called him. We set up the event. It's on carshowpro.com right now. It's not live to set up for the event yet. It'll be I'm working with some stuff, and we're going to do a training on the backside of it to see what it's going to take to get it to work. But I think it's pretty good setup the way it's going to be. So I'm looking forward to it because I think I would like if I was at a show and I was just walking through, I would love to be able to just oh, this is a cool car. This guy put a lot of work into it. Bing, and give him a vote. I think that'd be cool. I think it's a cool way to do the show.
No. All right. We'll discuss all that stuff after.
We'll take a look at it. But there's lots of cool stuff coming up. Tons of new podcasts coming. So you guys are going to get ready. I'm looking forward to the day that I have so many banked, I'm going to start dropping 2 a week. And
wouldn't you say that where you're at now, though? You have 3 or 4 banked right now?
I'm not to the point. What if I drop 2 a week? Then in 2 weeks I start make sure getting the grind. And then you can't kick up.
But you already have interviews set up.
You can't kick up 2 a week and then keep it going at 2 a week.
Doesn't need to be 2 a week, but a little sprinkle of, hey man, it is a listener appreciation. I'm dropping this one today. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be every week.
All right, bro. Here's the first one's coming out this week. It's gonna be me with a phone call George didn't know was being recorded. There you go. So. Well, cool, guys. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the support. I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast. And make sure you guys share this podcast with a friend. I want to give a couple shout outs for some people that have supported this week. Let me pull them up here right quick. And our first one that I wanted to thank here is, let me see here. You trying to give me my glasses, George? You trying to give me my glasses?
You got that Clint Eastwood squint going on right now.
By the way, dude, I just ordered some stuff on Instagram, dude. I ordered a little Bluetooth your TV screen to the screen on your thing. We're gonna see if that's a ripoff.
Bluetooth the what?
Like one of those things where you plug your phone in and it scans right to your and it shows up on your flat screen on your car. So it's probably bullcrap, but who knows? We're gonna find out, right? So I wanted to give some shout outs to some people that are going to be coming out. Let's see. Most of these people are registering for the show. Where did I go here? Did I get rid of everything? Yeah, we got a couple vendors already signed up for the event. So
Who are those vendors?
And this year we're gonna have some. We will have vendors as well. So, yeah, tons of stuff. I've got. Man, let me see where I'm at here. Hang tight, George. George, keep him busy.
Riveting podcast.
George, this is your time when you step. Oh, by the way, there was when I did the podcast with Frederick Peters, I talked about a book that he had in there that was a book that was written by his friend, and it's the Old Speed book, and it's about performance Beetles, and you can find that book on Ardenn Rennen, ARDENNEN RENNEN, right? Ardennen Rennen is what it's called.
Super easy.
Yeah, super easy. Rolls off the tongue. ARDENNEN RENNEN. So that's where you can pick up that book for the Old Speed Beetles. It's a book written about performance Beetles, bless me. And that's the one that we talk about that's got the Mach 1 Beetle that was built in Belgium only, and a bunch of other performance models that were built in the same, in like that same deal. So there's definitely lots of stuff to come up. Wanted to give a shout out to Brent Cook for supporting the podcast. Also, Michael Hartman for supporting the podcast, and Brian Gardner. Lots of people supporting the podcast, and I appreciate those guys. So we will be back next week with some podcasts and probably more stuff. And hopefully if I get a chance to get some of the Ottinger story for the podcast, that would be super cool. It's a family that was doing bus tours out in the, I think, 60s and 70s out there in Moab. So take people out actually in the rocks with their bus. We'll see. I may take the limo bus out there into the dirt. Well, I'm not gonna be trying to jump it, bro.
You seen what that people crawl over?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
crawl,
it's a little
bro.
aggressive.
I crawl, dude.
A little aggressive.
I crawl. I know what's up, dude. Talking to the crawl, the mall crawler right here, dude. So, anyway, guys, appreciate you guys. Don't forget to support our sponsors. And if you want to support the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com and click on the merch tab to support. And I got a couple medium shirts that were on back order, so I got those being made for my guy up in Kevin Lang Lois up in Salt Lake. I didn't forget about you, dog. I got your shirts coming. So sorry about the delay. My shirt guy, there was a little miscommunication with me and him, and I just rectified it today, so I should be getting them in the next couple of days. Other than that, guys, until next week, later.
You probably don't know that there's a new Volkswagen out that doesn't look like a Volkswagen.